I knocked, and my brother received the door. Meanwhile, Kelly was hiding in a corner and taking a video of everything. Once Steven saw me, he called my parents. They were all angry to see me. I went on my knees and tried to beg them, but I got beaten up by my brother instead, on the order of my parents. Kelly recorded everything. I ran away with a broken lip and my whole body sore. I cried all day, and Kelly did her best to comfort me. She swore to take care of me, no matter what it took her. The next day, she positioned her camera, and I told everything to the world. Kelly joined that to the video of my brother beating me, while my parents watched and posted it. It wasn't long before it blew up, and everybody began talking about it. Hello there. My name's Anthony, and I have a younger brother, Steven. Steven was born 3 years after me, and I loved him so much. Our parents weren't always home. My dad was always traveling, and my mom owned a big fashion house, so she was hardly ever home on time. I wasn't a big child. At age 14, I looked like I was still 9. While for Steven, he grew so fast and bigger than his age. So when he was 10 and I was 13, it seemed like I was the younger brother. At school, I didn't have any friends. I always topped my class, so my classmates hated and envied me, which led to all of them refusing to associate with me. That left me with just my brother to be with. Unfortunately, as time passed, Steven preferred to be with his friends. Although I felt lonely, I didn't fault him. It was his life, and he deserved to be happy. I always waited at the gate for Steven, so we went home together. For a whole month, Steven didn't go home with me. Instead, he would go with his friends, who were all bigger than me. But that didn't stop me from waiting, just in case he wanted to go with me any day. One day, I saw Steven and his friends approaching me. I was quite confused, wondering if they wanted me to join them in going home together. However, when they got to me, I received the shock of my life when Steven suddenly pushed me. The push was hard, and I wasn't strong, so I fell to the floor. They burst out laughing, confusing me even more. I asked Steven why he did that, and I got a slap as a response. By now, most of the students' attention was on us. I told you all he's weak. You don't have to be scared about doing anything to him. He's my elder, but he's as weak as a toddler. People laughed at that, making me feel so embarrassed. I had no idea why Steven was suddenly acting that way toward me. He didn't speak to me that morning before we left for school, but I didn't ask because I thought he was just in a bad mood. Now, after the sudden attack, I felt like I'd offended him without knowing. I helped myself up, even though my butt and cheeks were hurting. I wanted to speak, but I didn't want any more attacks. So I simply lowered my gaze and walked away from them. I could hear everyone's mocking laughter as I went farther away from them, but I didn't dare look back. My eyes were filled with tears, and all I wanted to do was get home and confront Steven when he got home. When he was finally home, I stood in front of him, trying hard to look intimidating. Why did you embarrass me like that for nothing? Do you realize that I'm your elder brother and not a junior student? I'm 3 years older than you, Steven. Well, shockingly, he burst out laughing. At first, I was so angry to see him laughing foolishly, but my anger slowly turned to fear when he grabbed my neck and pulled me closer to himself. If you ever say it to anyone's ear, I'll kill you. What makes you think you're older? Guess what? I've told everyone that I'm older, and our parents are only lying about your age because you lost your memory. You must be joking! There's more. They also think you're adopted. I couldn't believe my ears. He pushed me, and for the second time that day, I fell on my butt. All I could think was why he was doing that to me. All I'd ever done was love him as a brother and take care of him in any way possible. Why was he suddenly being mean to me? I stood up and went to his room to know what I did to him, and when I asked him, the reply I got shocked me to my bones. Mom loves me more than you. She told me she wishes to give me her fashion house when I'm older, but you're in the way because you're older. I'm going to prove to them that you're nothing but a weakling, an undeserving and worthless weakling. I couldn't believe my ears. Firstly, I loved fashion, so I'd always imagined joining my mom in the fashion world someday. So hearing about her not liking the fact that I was older than Steven broke me. I simply turned and walked out of his room. I tried to figure out what I did wrong, but I couldn't lay my finger on anything. I decided to wait for my mom to get home. After all, Steven could have just made that up to make me even angrier. I waited until almost midnight before my mom arrived. After she had her bath and drank her night tea, I went up to her room to speak to her. Surprisingly, I met Stephen there already. Nevertheless, I spoke my mind out. I told her what happened at school earlier that day, and everything Stephen had told me after I confronted him at home. You must have expected her to discipline him or something. Well, so did I. Unfortunately, my mom turned to Stephen and continued her conversation with him as if I hadn't just finished telling her about him bullying me. Feeling ashamed and dejected, I left her room and went to mine. I drifted straight to dreamland because I didn't want to overthink anything. Well, from then on, Stephen continued to bully me. At school, his classmates also mocked me and sometimes beat me up because they knew I wouldn't do anything. They also hated me because they thought I was a liar for pretending to be older than Stephen. I endured all of the humiliation and mistreatments from both Stephen, his friends, and my mom for 3 whole years. Unfortunately for me, even after 3 years passed, I still hadn't grown much. Stephen had grown into a teenager, and a very handsome one. He had all the girls gushing over him and enjoyed the pleasure it brought him. As for my dad, the few times he was home, he saw how my mom and Stephen ordered me around, but he refused to speak. I still held on to the belief that he loves me and would stand up for me someday, until the day he proved that he wasn't on my side. I was 17 then, and Stephen was 14. I had just graduated high school and was home for the holidays. Our dad was also granted a 1-week leave. On the second day of his leave, he suddenly woke up and began yelling. We all rushed out of our rooms and discovered that someone had stolen his money, nearly $2,000. I was shocked because we'd never had anything stolen in the house before. Stephen and my mom seemed to be the most shocked. They were both yelling at the houseworkers, accusing them of having the thief among them. The workers kept refusing to admit that they saw the money. Let's search everyone's room then. Dad, we'll all be in the living room and let you search everyone's room. You can start with Anthony's and mine. I wasn't scared in any way because I had no idea that my dad even had that amount in his possession. I also never went into their room, so there was no way it could be with me. Unfortunately, for me, the money was found in my drawer. I was shocked to my bones. I cried. I waited. I begged. He didn't believe me. In front of everyone, my dad tied me up and flogged me mercilessly. The next time you steal from me, I'm going to disown you and send you out of my house. I felt so sad. He hadn't even given me a benefit of the doubt. It felt as if he was waiting for a day like that to come. That night, a worker helped me treat my wounds and another fed me. I could see the pity they held for me in their eyes, and that made me even more vulnerable. I thought I was going to escape being disowned by my father, but 3 days later, his money went missing again and was found in my room. This time, he didn't flog me. My things and I were thrown out of the house. As I left in tears, I turned to see my mom and Stephen smiling, and my heart tore. I had no idea why they hated me so much. Well, as luck would have it, that night while I was on the streets, a kind-hearted woman saw me and took me into her house. She took good care of me for days until I explained what had happened to her. She knew my parents because she was a content creator and adored my mom's brand. She asked if I wanted to get back at my family, and I replied that I did. They deserved it because they were so unfair to me. The woman, whose name was Kelly, went with me to my house on a Sunday, and my dad was home. I knocked, and my brother received the door. Meanwhile, Kelly was hiding in a corner and taking a video of everything. Once Stephen saw me, he called my parents. They were all angry to see me. I went on my knees and tried to beg them, but I got beaten up by my brother instead, on the order of my parents. Kelly recorded everything. I ran away with a broken lip and my whole body sore. I cried all day, and Kelly did her best to comfort me. She swore to take care of me, no matter what it took her. The next day, she positioned her camera, and I told everything to the world. Kelly joined that to the video of my brother beating me, while my parents watched and posted it. It wasn't long before it blew up, and everybody began talking about it. We managed to get our houseworkers to talk on the case when my family wasn't home. They were also feeling bad for me and tired of working for my parents, so they spoke out. That was even more evidence against my family. My mom's business began crumbling. Brands canceled deals with her. Customers began protesting against her brand because she was a bad mother and an abuser. My brother stopped going to school after Kelly and I let the school authorities know how he lied against me and made his friends bully me for years. Of course, they all got expelled. And my dad was sacked from work because the company didn't want to be associated with a father like him. It wasn't a personal issue anymore because the public had become aware of it. Kelly quickly made a GoFundMe. Thousands of people sent me money because they felt bad for me. Once we had enough money and the case had died down, Kelly and I relocated to a different country. She became like an elder sister to me. She took care of me so well that no one believed we weren't siblings. At age 25, I'd grown to become a handsome man. I got a late sprout, which was the reason Steven grew to look like he was older than me. Kelly and I kept recording our growth, and so many people loved us. We started a good brand together, and in no time, we became even more popular. I was happy. Kelly got married and left the brand to me. According to her, she wanted me to have it all to myself because I deserved it. As for my family, they were living in misery. No company agreed to employ my dad because of the reputation his actions gave him. My mom couldn't bring her fashion house back to life, and that led her to having depression and serious drinking problems. After Steven got expelled, he was too ashamed to register in another school. He did menial jobs to sustain himself since our parents had become poor. He got arrested one day after bullying a girl in the neighborhood for months and beating her up until she almost died. He was sent to jail, where his fellow inmates harassed him nonstop. My dad eventually got a job as a janitor after my mom left him to start doing drugs on the streets. Their lives turned out worse than I imagined, but I can't stop feeling that they all deserved it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.